Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first visit, I talk about the differences and similarities between movies and the books that they come from. I upload once a week, and your subscribership is much appreciated and helps keep me going. But this week's video is dedicated to my new friend and co-worker, Se7en Monk, who was so excited to share how much more intense the book is that she treated me to this book. It's Se7en, one of the pioneer disturbing psychological thriller serial killer movies from the 90s that dared to go places content-wise, that put it in direct competition with Silence of the Lambs in that shock value department. Anyway, the book is narrated in the third person, mostly through the lens of Detective Somerset, who is burned out after a long career of investigating senseless murders, sick of the crappy part of New York City, and so looking forward to his retirement in 1 week that he's already bought himself a home out in the sticks and keeps a piece of the rose print wallpaper with him that we can see just once in one of the first frames, to keep his eyes on the prize. We also get a little insight on Detective Mills, who is new to this crappy part of New York City after moving in from the sticks to ramp up his career investigating homicides. He's hot-headed and quick to get mad at anyone who looks down on him as some jumped-up Barney Fife from some one-horse town upstate where his schoolteacher wife was happy. And the book jumps into the 7 deadly sins killer just as quickly as the movie does, with some of these murder scenes watered down and some watered up. Here we go. Gluttony. The book describes this victim as a 5'10" and 260-pound print shop clerk named Peter Eubanks. And he was found fed to death among a moldy and roach-infested feast, not just a shit ton of spaghetti. And if this guy weighs 260 pounds, then he must be 3 feet tall. So here we have a watering up. Alright. The next is Greed, the criminal defender and go-to guy for insanity defenses, just because, named Eli Gold, who is forced at gunpoint to flens his spare tire to exact that proverbial pound of flesh. He is at least afforded the small dignity of underwear. Not so much in the book, so we have a watering down. Now, just my own thoughts on the gluttony and greed killings. They were held at gunpoint, one forced to eat until his stomach ruptured and beyond, the other forced to flens himself. Was there ever a point during all this where taking a bullet to the head seemed preferable? The unforgettable sloth scene. Not exactly a murder, since the sloth was found still alive, in a manner of speaking. Not watered up or down. Completely verbatim. Imagination to image match. With the frames on the victim gone quickly before the viewer could completely take him in. The lust killing, watered down, not even shown except for her feet. But we get the gist with the image of the weapon and the image of the screaming John pitching that tent from under his blanket. In the book, when Mills and Somerset get to the crime scene, she's covered by a sheet with a spreading blood stain already the size of a pizza. Point taken, gutted from the inside out. Although, I have to opine on the choice for the lust victim. Prostitutes, particularly in states where it's illegal, are more often than not human trafficking victims. So I maintain that a trafficked person is not a good choice for a representation of the deadly sin of lust. Next we have pride, also an image to imagination match. He cut off her nose and glued a phone to one hand and a bottle of pills to another, a bit more appropriate for the Saw franchise, but that ship has sailed. I have a bit of an argument for this one as well. If she can afford this, good-looking apartment in a like this in New York City, then why couldn't she afford a reconstructive surgeon so that her resemblance to Lord Voldemort would be brief? I guess she was short-sighted as well as ugly on the inside. And now for the finale, as the book and movie continue exactly the same. John Doe turns himself in, covered in blood, and proposes to lead them to wrath and envy in exchange for his taking responsibility for what he's done. Now, throughout the movie, there is some ad-libbing of the dialogue, mostly for Mills, to highlight another big difference between himself and Somerset. He is not as well-read as Somerset, and he dismisses his understanding of behavioral science with comments like, "He's a nutbag, just because the fucker has a library card does not make him Yoda," and "Do you know you're insane while reading Guns and Ammo and rubbing one out in your own feces?" And the dialogue at the end, when wrath and envy have been revealed, is watered down a little from book to movie. Before Mills becomes wrath, in spite of Somerset right there, trying to talk sense into him while standing next to the box with Tracy's head in it, Mills gives into his anger and says, fine, he wins. And he finishes off John Doe at close range, making his head pop off his body like rotten fruit. And the movie ends with Somerset quoting a line from Hemingway that seems so inappropriate for the situation. And the book ends with Somerset calling off his retirement. And that is all for 7. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment and smash that like button. And we'll take a little breather from all this death and destruction and see you back next week for Holes.